Have you heard that your baby has a mild tongue tie and maybe you were told not to worry about it? Or maybe you've been given a specific grade of tongue tie that left you feeling confused. In today's video, I'm going to break down what a quote-unquote mild tongue tie really means and why it's not about structure, but about function when it comes to your baby's tongue tie. Hi, I'm Kaili, a pediatric occupational therapist and infant craniosacral therapist, and a holistic sleep and reflux specialist. I work with mamas and babies to overcome feeding challenges, sleep struggles, and other developmental issues that impact your baby's overall wellness and well-being. And one of the biggest misconceptions that I often hear is about mild tongue ties. So today we're going to unpack why that term can be misleading, and I'll explain why the function of the tongue is what really matters. Have you been told that your baby has a mild tongue tie or given a grade of some kind? Let me know in the comments below. And make sure to hit subscribe for more helpful tips on supporting your little one's health and development. Before we get started, don't forget to check out my free tongue tie symptoms checklist in the description below. It's a helpful tool to understand the signs and symptoms of how a tongue tie may be impacting your baby. Let's talk about this term mild tongue tie. You may have been told that your baby has a mild case and not to worry, but that can be a very misleading label. A tongue tie isn't about how it looks. It's about how your tongue functions. What makes a tongue tie is how the frenulum, or that little piece of fascia and mucosa under the tongue, how that restricts the tongue's movement. It could be positioned too far forward, too tight, too thick, or too short. While these are structural characteristics, they affect how your baby's tongue can move and function. That's what truly matters. If you've been told your baby has a mild tongue tie, it's likely that the person giving that assessment used a grading system to classify the tie. Often this grading is based on the visual structure of that frenulum under the tongue, and it can vary depending on the professional and the type of system that they're using. But here's the thing. All of these grading systems are based on structure, what it looks like. It's not based on function. And as we discussed in part 1 of this video series, in my video, How to Tell If Your Baby Has a Tongue Tie, the function is what really matters. Two of the most common grading systems used to categorize tongue ties are the Coryllos system and the Kotlow system. And don't worry too much about those names, but I'm going to give you a little breakdown. The Coryllos system is a grading system that categorizes tongue ties into 4 types based on how far the frenulum is attached toward the tip of the tongue. So essentially where that frenulum lands. Type 1, the frenulum attaches at or near the very, very tip of the tongue. Type 2 is when the frenulum attaches just behind the tip. Type 3 and type 4, these are often labeled as posterior or submucosal tongue ties, meaning that they're farther back and might be less obvious visually. However, labeling a tongue tie as severe or mild based on these categories can be very misleading because it doesn't account for how that tie impacts the baby's ability to feed or move their tongue effectively. The Kotlow system is a system that uses classes to describe the tie. So class 1 is often known as mild, class 2 is moderate, class 3 is severe, and class 4 is complete. So when a doctor says your baby has a mild tongue tie, they're likely using this classification system to describe what the frenulum looks like. But again, it doesn't tell us how well the tongue is functioning, which is crucial for determining how a tongue tie is impacting feeding and comfort. Most practitioners use classifications that give tongue ties a grade. So whether it's from that type 1 to type 4, with grades 1 and 2 generally thought of like as more anterior, and grades 3 and 4 as more of that like mid-blade or posterior tie. But unlike other medical grading systems like cancer stages, where stage 1 is minimal and stage 4 is severe, this is not a severity scale for tongue ties. Instead, it simply describes where that frenulum under the tongue attaches to the tongue. This means that you could have a baby with a grade 1 tie who struggles significantly with breastfeeding, or a baby with a grade 4 tie who feeds just fine. But it also means that you could have a baby with a grade 4 tongue tie where the attachment is more posterior, and they are really struggling with feeding either at the breast or the bottle, or maybe later on with introduction to solids, because that middle of the tongue and that posterior tongue is not able to elevate in that peristaltic movement that we need in order to effectively cup the nipple and push that to the roof of the mouth in order to suck and extract that milk. So the classification doesn't always reflect the impact on feeding. Additionally, the term posterior tongue tie can also cause confusion. A better term might be submucosal or a hidden tongue tie, but for now, we're stuck with the term posterior. It's important to really focus on how the frenulum is restricting movement rather than on what it looks like and its specific location. So, what's the takeaway from all of this? It's all about function over structure. A baby with what may look like a mild or less obvious tongue tie could still be experiencing significant issues with feeding or comfort because the tongue can't move properly. The tongue plays a key role in helping your baby latch properly, but it also helps them transfer the milk and even supports airway function. If the tongue's function is impaired or it's not doing what it needs to do, even if the tongue tie looks minor, it could be causing big problems for your baby. So if any of this sounds familiar, what should you do next? First, find a specialist trained in tongue tie assessments who focuses on function. This could be a trained international board certified lactation consultant or IBCLC. It could be an occupational therapist or a speech language pathologist or a pediatric dentist or a pediatrician or an ENT that has received additional training in assessing tongue ties and oral function. Now, that being said, the only people that can fully give a true tongue tie diagnosis are your pediatric dentist, your pediatrician, or your ENT or another medical doctor. IBCLCs, occupational therapists, speech language pathologists, and even some physical therapists who are trained in assessing for this, they can look at your child's tongue function and determine whether that tongue is doing what it's supposed to be doing, whether there's any restrictions in place, whether there is any dysfunction in place, and then most likely they'll let you know what they see and they will refer you on for an official diagnosis to a release provider that they trust. And remember, a proper assessment involves a comprehensive oral examination where the provider feels how the tongue moves. Simply looking at the tongue or seeing how far it can stick out of the mouth is not enough. If you're unsure of where to start or you want more guidance, download my tongue tie symptoms checklist to help identify some of the initial signs and symptoms and to get a better sense of whether this might be affecting your baby, toddler, or child, or maybe yourself. I hope this video has clarified why the term mild tongue tie can be misleading and why function is the most important factor to consider when you're thinking about whether your baby has a tongue tie or not. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share your experience in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more baby wellness tips focused on reflux, sleep, feeding, development, and so much more. And don't forget to download my tongue tie symptoms checklist from the link below this video. It's an invaluable resource for identifying potential signs of a tongue tie in your little one.